With Steffy Forrester, Brooke Logan had always been keeping a close check on her. The years that had passed, the disagreements that had occurred, and the reconciliations that had taken place, Brooke was unable to help, but maintained a guarded attitude around Ridge's daughter. Although their family relationships had been strained for many years, there remained a balance between them, a subtle tension that lingered from those years. It was impossible for Brooke to take Steffy's brilliance and strength into consideration. In fact, she valued it in her own unique way. However, Brooke has recently had the impression that there was something more, a shadow that she was unable to locate. It was a feeling that gnawed at her, a sense that Steffy was keeping something significant from her, something that could put Ridge's happiness, and by extension, her own future with him in jeopardy. Even though it was nothing more than a rumor or a suspicion, it insisted on staying with her and not leaving her alone. In recent times, she had observed Steffy making courageous choices at Forrester Creations, choices that appeared to be reckless and almost suspiciously plotted. Brooke's suspicions were fanned by a number of factors, including the expanding list of meetings that took place behind closed doors with questionable partners, the suggestions of secrets, and Steffy's newly discovered estrangement from her own family. Brooke had a feeling that there was a threat that went beyond simple competition, but she was unable to put her finger on it. She came to the conclusion that it was time for her to take matters into her own hands. Brooke made the decision to finally express her concerns while she was at the Forrester estate. As Brooke took a seat next to Ridge, who was sitting by the fire and going over some designs for the most recent collection, she exhibited an anxious mood. Ridge was scrutinizing the sketches. She was well aware of how deeply Ridge felt about Steffy, and she was aware that any charge, even the smallest doubt that was directed toward her, could result in confrontation. When the situation called for it, however, Brooke had a way with words. "Ridge," she said slowly, selecting each word with care, "there is something I need to talk to you about." Her words were carefully chosen. After hearing her tone, he looked up, feeling a little uneasy. "What's on your mind, Logan?" She was hesitant. "That is all about Steffy. Quite recently, I've been aware of things that don't sit quite right. Her behavior at Forrester Creations, including the meetings and the secrecy around them. I get a feeling that she is not communicating everything that is going on." The expression on Ridge's face changed, becoming a combination of surprise and wariness. "Brooke, what are you getting at?" Brooke remarked, "I don't want to jump to conclusions," while attempting to maintain a polite tone. "However, I have a feeling that she might be making decisions that could put Forrester in danger, choices that could end up being a source of trouble for all of us." When Ridge was finished, he put the sketches down and folded his hands together. "Brooke, Steffy is an exceptionally capable individual. Sure, she is a passionate person, and it's possible that she might be a little bit stubborn at times, but that's what makes her so powerful. You are aware of that." As soon as Brooke realized that her husband was not going to let this go without a struggle, she let out a sigh. "Yes, Ridge, I do make sense of it. That being said, I am unable to ignore what I see since I am someone who loves you and this family. You have a right to know if there is even a remote possibility that something potentially harmful is taking place right in front of our eyes." Ridge was silent, his thoughts racing in his head. Despite the fact that the seed of doubt was now present and firmly planted, Brooke could tell that he was not completely convinced, not at this time. Since Brooke was unable to sit around doing nothing, she started her own private inquiry. At the same time as she maintained a closer eye on Steffy's meetings and made subtle queries with Forrester staff, she also occasionally eavesdropped when she had the opportunity to do so. As she proceeded farther into the investigation, her suspicions grew. Her interest was piqued by a fresh business proposition, which involved the possibility of expanding cooperation with a provider whose reputation was not exactly spotless. She made the observation that Steffy appeared to have an especially strong interest in this matter, despite rumors that the supplier's ethics were questionable. Brooke ultimately stumbled across a conversation that she was unable to ignore after following Steffy's business activities for a week while she was observing them. The tone of Steffy's voice, which was strained and packed with an urgency that scared Brooke, was heard by her as she overheard Steffi discussing the collaboration with the supplier. Steffi's statements gave the impression that she was making desperate financial actions, the kind that could get Forrester into a lot of trouble. After learning this information, Brooke was aware that she needed to confront Ridge once more. During this particular instance, she would not merely be armed with suspicions. Rather, she would confront him with real concerns. Moreover, in the event that this did not work, she would personally approach Eric and the other members of the Forrester board. When Brooke got back to the mansion, she waited for Ridge to come back from the police station. The moment he came, she greeted him with a resoluteness that he had only occasionally witnessed in her. She spoke to him in a commanding manner. "Ridge, we need to talk," as she led him into the study. To protect her privacy, she shut the door behind her. The weight of what she was about to say was something that Ridge could feel as he gazed at her. "What exactly is going on, Brooke? You appear to be disturbed." A big breath was taken by her. "Ridge, I have a suspicion that Steffi is putting Forrester Creations in jeopardy for some reason. Conversations that I have overheard give the impression that she is engaging in risky approaches to her finances. It would be an understatement to say that she is collaborating with partners who look dubious. I get a feeling that she is in a state of desperation, and because of that, she is not thinking rationally." Ridge's disposition became more gloomy. "Are you genuinely suggesting that my daughter is acting in a reckless manner, of putting the legacy of the family in jeopardy?" The response that Brooke gave was, "I don't want to, Ridge," and her voice was strained, "but I can't turn a blind eye to the signs. Both you and the company are in my thoughts and prayers. It is imperative that you confront her about this matter before the situation becomes out of control." Ridge remained mute as he took in this woman's comments. "Brooke, you are aware of how difficult it has been for Steffi, with all that has happened with Finn and the professional expectations. According to you, she is more powerful than you give her credit for." Brooke was able to tell that Ridge was having a difficult time, as he was divided between his allegiance to his daughter and the realization that Brooke's fears might have some basis in reality. Nevertheless, she persisted in the hope that he would eventually come to his senses. "You can't ignore this, Ridge. You can't. It is imperative that we provide assistance to her before it is too late, if she is actually in over her head." When Ridge eventually gave a nod, it was with some reluctance. "No problem, Brooke. I will have a conversation with her, but you had best be ready for the possibility that you are wrong about this." The following day, Ridge extended an invitation to Steffi to visit him at his office at Forrester. Steffi could tell that something was off despite the fact that he maintained a neutral tone. In the moment that they took a seat, Ridge did not waste any time in getting to the point. He started off by saying, "Steffi, I need to ask you about the new partnership proposal you're working on," while attempting to maintain a steady tone in his voice. "I've heard some concerning things, and I just want to make sure we're on the right track." Clearly taken aback, Steffi could be seen frowning. "I'm curious, Dad. Where did this come from?" "It is a sound proposition here. Everything has been examined by me personally." Ridge continued, his tone becoming more subdued. "According to Brooke, she is concerned about the choices you are making. She is of the opinion that you might be taking risks that could end up being detrimental to Forrester." An angry expression appeared on Steffi's face. "Brooke? Without a doubt, she would. Since the beginning, she has had it out for me, Dad. It is not in her best interest for me to make decisions for this organization. It is I who poses a threat to her." Ridge responded to Steffi by saying, "That is not about that," in an effort to calm her down. "Brooke is not attempting to undermine you in any way. It's just worry on her part. The things that she heard caused her to question whether or not this was the appropriate action to take." Suddenly, Steffi's eyes became icy. "I've put in a lot of effort for this firm, and I don't deserve to be questioned about unfounded allegations. I am the head of the company. This is a decision that I have made, and I will not allow Brooke's sense of paranoia to undermine it." A long time after Steffi's conversation with Ridge, her wrath continued to simmer. It was hard for her to believe that Brooke would go to such great lengths to undermine her and to sow seeds of uncertainty in the mind of her father. Having made up her mind to safeguard her position, Steffi convened a meeting with the board to have an open conversation of the partnership in the hopes of putting an end to any lingering uncertainties. She presented her plan at the meeting, which had both financial estimates and risk assessments included in the presentation. Both her rigorous preparation and her vision for the expansion of the company appeared to have impressed the board, which appeared to be convinced. Even though Brooke had also been present, she was unable to dismiss the worries that she had. She feared that Steffi's self-assurance was a cover for more fundamental problems that had the potential to bring about Forrester's demise in the long run. Following their encounter, Brooke and Steffi's tensions reached a point where they could no longer be contained. They engaged in a heated conversation in the hallway, with Steffi accusing Brooke of attempting to undermine her, and Brooke asserting that she was simply looking out for the family throughout the entire conversation. Their quarrel became increasingly loud, which attracted the attention of other workers, until Ridge arrived to intercede and settle the dispute. His tone was urgent as he exclaimed, "Enough, you two together. This kind of squabbling is just going to drive a wedge between us, and we are brothers and sisters. We have to figure out a way to cooperate with one another, or else we will lose everything." However, the harm had already been done. Despite the fact that the allegations, suspicions, and hurt continued to linger, they cast a shadow over the family. Over the course of the subsequent weeks, Steffi was able to demonstrate that she was correct. The cooperation proved to be a fruitful endeavor for Forrester Creations, as it resulted in the acquisition of new customers and contributed to the enhancement of the company's financial standing. A sigh of relief from Ridge's mouth as he expressed his gratitude to his daughter for having followed her intuition. There was still a split between Steffi and Brooke, which served as a constant reminder of the charges and the sense of betrayal that they had both experienced. Ridge discovered that he was trapped in the center, grappling with the challenge of maintaining peace. At some point, Brooke acknowledged that she might have been too fast to pass judgment and extended an olive branch to the other person. "I beg your pardon, Steffi. All I was doing was attempting to safeguard our family. You should be able to comprehend that, I hope." Although she was hesitant, Steffi eventually gave a nod. "Yes, I do comprehend, Brooke. However, I require your trust in me as well. Because I am a member of this family, I would never do anything that would be detrimental to it." They both came to an agreement that they would move on and made a commitment to collaborate for the sake of the family and the legacy that they both shared. However, the memory of their conflict would continue to linger, serving as a constant reminder of the delicate equilibrium that kept them together. Shayla entered Il Giardino with her usual sneaky smile and quiet confidence. As innocent as she appeared, she was anything but. She glanced at Deacon wiping the counter. She strolled over, whispering, "Deacon, I've got a little proposition for you," she said, sitting at the bar. "Something I think you'll love." Deacon watched her suspiciously, knowing Shayla's propositions often caused difficulties. However, her eyes sparkled with delight, making him intrigued despite himself. "What kind of proposition are we talking about?" he said neutrally. He imagined every scenario Shayla might create. Her voice was low as she leaned in. "Let's pretend I can push some buttons. If my plans work, we'll flip this town, and you'll be in the middle." Deacon's expression was curious and uncertain. Shayla had tricked him before, so he knew how deadly she was when she wanted anything. Her words captivated him enough to resist leaving. "Please elaborate, Shayla. This could backfire on me, therefore I'm out." Shayla smiled wider. "Trust me, Deacon. The plan is foolproof." Scene 2. Carter and Deacon's fate changes. Carter Walton has been watching Deacon since his connection with Shayla made headlines in Los Angeles. Carter couldn't stand Deacon's relationship with Shayla and suspected she was manipulating him. What happened when he met Deacon at Il Giardino later that evening was unexpected. "Deacon," Carter said stiffly, hands in pockets, "I need to know about you and Shayla. You know she's trouble, right? The Forrester staff doesn't need her disruption right now." The Deacon rolled his eyes, expecting more lecture. Carter, Shayla may be trouble, but you don't pick who I hang out with. As a grown man, I know what I'm doing. Do you? Carter responded with irritation. From where I am, she appears to be pulling you into something dark. If you get dragged down, you may never rise again. Their silence was tense and tinged with an understanding that they both cared about safeguarding those they loved. Deacon eventually replied, "Look," dropping his voice, "I know Shayla isn't ideal. She's different with me. She exposes a side no one else does. It may make me silly, but it's genuine to me." Carter noted Deacon's genuineness in his words. Although he wanted to reject Deacon's thoughts as naive, he partly understood. "Just be careful," Carter said, his voice relaxing. "I know how much people can change with a chance. But Sheila has a reputation, and if you're not careful, she'll bring you down." The conversation left both men thinking about their next move. Carter wondered if Deacon might be saved from Shayla's plans. Scene 3. Scam by Shayla. In the days that followed, Shayla's idea developed. She cleverly staged a Forrester scandal to exonerate Deacon and undermine Shayla's longtime enemies. The trap was carefully designed to appear foolproof. Deacon only had to do his part, which Shayla promised would be safe. Deacon grew uneasy. He saw the evil in Shayla's strategy and concerned that exposing it would ruin his hard-won reputation and injure others he cared about. Despite loving Shayla, he wavered. Carter entered Il Giardino one evening while considering the plan, thinking something was wrong. Carter moved onto the seat next to him, silently agreeing. "Do you seriously consider doing this?" Carter inquired quietly, without judgment. Deacon looked down, conflicted. It seemed possible that I could do this without hurting anyone. However, Sheila is not interested in fair play. I doubt I can leave now." Carter sighed, relieved and frustrated. "Listen, Deacon, if Shayla's strategy is what I think it is, it might be terrible for you and many others. I don't want you to lose everything you fought for to someone who's always been selfish." Deacon nodded, looking at the glass. Carter's remarks hurt, and he knew he had to leave Shayla's plan to save everything he'd achieved. Scene 4. Breaking Bonds. Deacon addressed Shayla the next day, expressing his fears and determination to abandon her plan. Shayla didn't like the news. "Are you really going to let Carter Walton dictate your life?" she asked, her eyes sharpening. "Deacon, you seem different." Deacon stood steady. "I thought you supported." Knowing Carter's comments had grounded him unexpectedly. "Shayla, I must accept my decisions. I cannot live with this choice." In addition to her rage, Shayla's eyes showed a spark of vulnerability, as if she hadn't expected Deacon to stand up to her. "If that's how you feel, Deacon, then maybe you don't belong in my life after all," she muttered, moving away. Deacon felt strangely relieved and sad as he left. Though he left something dangerous, he felt lighter without Shayla's influence. For the first time, he picked his own route without others' whims. Scene 5. New Alliance. Later that night, Deacon met Carter at Il Giardino and felt a sense of camaraderie with the man he formerly considered an irritation. They nodded in agreement, acknowledging their shared struggle. "I owe you one," Deacon said, raising his glass in a toast.